Chemistry Room Fragrances is the perfect addition when elevating the vibe of any space. Whether if it's your home, car, or office, and something needs a quick refresh, our room fragrances provide that beautiful burst of fragrance with just one quick mist. Shop now at www.chemistryroomfragrances.com and be sure to follow us on Instagram at Chemistry Room Fragrances. Chemistry Room Fragrances. Smells so good.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Hey, Derek.
What's going on? Listen, I'm sitting here enjoying the look of these graphics, this intro. I mean, I just got to give you a big up before we even get started. I'm sitting here like, you know what? That's fire.
What? Me?
Yes.
Me?
Yes, you. A whole you.
A whole me. Thank you. I've been working just to make the experience better. I'm a visual person, so I like vibe. I want it to feel fun and inviting, kind of like a little party. You know what I'm saying? And I want all my guests to feel honored when they come on here. So I know everyone is different, but it's just my way of saying thank you and that you're here in my little living room. I gotta make you show up and be like, hey, guess who's coming? Guess who's here? So, we try to do
mission accomplished. Mission accomplished.
Thank you so much. With that being said, hey everybody, what's up? It's your girl Camille Essex, host of the Speaker Podcast, the podcast where innovators and creators connect. Be sure to hit that notification bell and subscribe. Also go to my website, Chemistry Room Fragrances. Use the coupon code GBM15. That way you can save 15% at the checkout. My Amazon store is available. I also have my Etsy storefront and, the anchor line, Good Black Men, because why? All of them are not bad. Follow us on Instagram at goodblackmenofficial.com. We're also now on Facebook, and we also have our website now at gbmofficial.com. So with that being said, we're going to hop right in here. He is a veteran to the show. He is like family. It's like Olive Garden. When you're here, you're family. And he is back once again, the one, the only, Derek is in the building, and we just want to say thank you. First of all, Derek just had a birthday, so if you're in the comments below, please tell Derek happy birthday. He's been so supportive of me since the beginning, and I truly appreciate him. So I want to say thank you so much. We got jokes in the comments. John Moore, done. You are bye, John. Get out of here. So thank you. So those that are not familiar with you, Derek, please let the listeners and viewers know who you are and what you do.
So at a young age, I landed my dream job right out of college. I worked with a marketing agency. I was traveling around the country, going to major events, meeting powerful people, just being in the room with game changers and move makers, right? And so been in this game for about 19 years now, learning from the best, working with some amazing brands. And so now 20 years later, I can say that 20 years later, and of those 20 years, 8 years under my own agency, the D Squared Group, where I work with brands, especially in the HBCU space, but in sports and entertainment, to break through their creative roadblocks, to create campaigns and stories and messaging that really tell their stories, gives them visibility, to create impact, to get those results, and just to amplify their voice, right? Everyone has a story. Everyone has a mission and a vision that's bigger than just making money and selling, right? You want to make an impact in the world. And so that's what I do. I am a thought partner and a storyteller and a publicist wrapped up in one.
I absolutely love that. So the point of this conversation tonight, hopefully we'll get to everything, but you know how we do. We might get to one point and stay there, but we also want to be mindful of everyone's time. So if not, we're part to it. I have no problem with that. So we're going to talk about or get to the points as far as showing up offline, your offline presence, and boundaries. Those are our main two topics. So one of the things, Derek, I wanted to bring up, I was reading in preparation for the show and came across something that was talking about boundaries and the Bill of Rights as far as in a relationship, and not just romantic, but just across the board. And it was saying you have the right to be heard, you have the right to be listened to, and you have the right to feel safe. You have the right to privacy. You have the right to feel validated, the right to people to respect that no means no, and the right to be treated respectfully, and also the right to have your needs met. So what do you think about those, what I call the relationship Bill of Rights?
They need to put that on a scroll, right? And make those like the commandments, right?
We the people.
we the people do solemnly swear that boundaries will be set and abided by, right? But no, I think that's very important. I think at the end of the day, we are all humans. And there's a commonality that we share, that we all have emotions, we all have feelings, we all grow, we all are experiencing life for the first time. There is no blueprint, there is no book for us to really say, okay, well, when I hit 40 or 35 or whatever age you may be, that this is what I need to do. Life is fluid. It's always changing. And I think as we change, we grow, and we know and we learn more about ourselves. And that's where those boundaries come in, right? We don't always understand why, someone continues to hurt us over and over again until we realize that we hold the power to their access to us.
Right.
That's where boundaries come in. And so I think a part of that is over time, you understand the different dynamics that boundaries create, but then also what you deserve just as being yourself, right? Being heard, feeling safe. And so I think all those things are very powerful. And I think you have to look at it seasonally as well. I mean, it's something that should always be in play every day, but I think certain seasons will call out a lesson that would apply to one of those boundaries more so than another. And so you just have to recognize that it's always going to be a work in process, right? You're going to slip, you're going to get the validation or seek validation from the wrong person, right? And instead of the people that really matter, and you'll catch yourself. And so I think those things are important. I think for people that are listening, go back and listen and write those down and really look at them for yourself and really start from a foundational perspective and say, okay, in each of these areas, in each of those pieces that you mentioned, where do I show up? Where does that show up in my life? Because it gives you a baseline to then know where you need to build from, because we're all starting at different levels and different spaces depending on our experiences. And I think that will help you at least get a foundation, and then you can start to decide what works best or where I should start in this journey of really creating boundaries for myself.
Yeah, that's really good. One thing I learned in my journey for a long time, Derek, I was unhappy and didn't realize until I started doing the therapy and stuff. And it was because I didn't set boundaries, because I wanted to be liked, I wanted to be validated, I wanted to be accepted. So there was times I would say yes when I didn't want to do something, but I would do it because I didn't want to be confrontational. Oh, what if they get upset? Or I don't want to make them mad? Or what if they don't like me if I say no? And so I was denying my own space and my own boundary to be a people pleaser. And so I would do it to make them happy and think, well, maybe they'll like me, or, and they would get what they want or whatever. Whether they like me or not may or may not have changed, but it was how I felt about me, and then becoming angry at myself, resentful, going, you should have said no or spoken up for yourself, and I didn't. And I started harboring feelings of resentment, not only towards myself, but that person, because they're just such a taker. They're always taking from me, whatever. But it was like, I was letting them do it, And so when I got to a space and I started saying no, And some people got upset with me and were like, you're acting funny or you're acting brand new, or because they got so accustomed to Camille being this way. And now that I'm not the guest girl anymore, oh, now she switched up. When, yeah, I did, but I didn't. But I should have spoken up for myself from the beginning
Mm-hmm.
and learning to advocate for myself.
Absolutely. And that comes with time. That comes with to your point, like even when you were sharing the moments where you fell down or you didn't catch something or you allowed someone too much leeway, right?
Yeah.
But then as you experience it, you're like, oh no, that rope is shorter and shorter. Nope, cutting it off right here. You don't
Yeah.
get the access, or you don't even get the opportunity for to enter my space, because I already know by the looks of it, by the flags that I see, by the sound of it, that it's not for me.
Yeah.
And so someone listening now, boundaries start with a B. So be okay with people not understanding your boundaries. Be okay with people being mad. Be okay with people maybe just not dealing with you or exiting your life altogether, because the boundaries are for you. They're for you to protect your peace, your space. It's not for them. And the people that truly understand and respect your boundaries will then show in their actions. They'll ask questions, but they will respect it because they care about you fundamentally from the core.
I like that. Can you repeat that B again? I like that.
Be okay. Be okay with people not understanding your boundaries. Be okay with people not liking them. Be okay with people who decide to exit your life because they can't meet your boundaries, right? Because they don't have any boundaries of their own. Be okay, and start with that. Be okay with,
Yeah.
because that's a part of the process. You have to also be okay with the things that boundaries bring. They bring separation from things and people that no longer serve you,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Kids, we're gonna go back. I'm dating myself. Today's episode is brought by the letter B. I like that. That I like that, Derek. That's really good. So in that, when we're talking about boundaries, what is acceptable behavior? Like what is okay? Because we're in a space now where everybody's offended by everything
Mm.
and cancel culture. So what is acceptable? And when we're putting up boundaries, like where do we put these things?
Well, you start with yourself, right? You have to
Mhm.
understand what your values are. You have to understand what you will and will not put up with. You got to understand where your level of respect lies with other people in your life,
Mhm.
even with yourself,
Yeah.
because that will be the blueprint for then how you set your boundaries.
Yeah.
And then it also helps you to then identify, those relationships, those conversations that you need to have with people who are in your life. You might say, hey, I love you to death, but don't call me after a certain time of night because of
Right.
XYZ.
Right.
Some people might say, "Are you kidding?" And they'll try it anyway.
Yeah.
And then you're like, "No, I set the boundary." And so some people you got to teach them,
That's
but
good.
it starts with you. And I think when
Yep.
you have an understanding of what you need to
Mhm.
operate in this world, to be at your highest and your fullest self, to be full so that you can show up and do the things that you were called to do in the world, to
Yeah.
serve, to show, whatever that may be, whatever your role may be, you have to understand that and what you need first. So that way you can set clear boundaries. And then you can also understand for yourself what's acceptable boundaries and what's not, right? Because there are
Mhm.
some people that have boundaries that are a little far off, right? It could be
Yeah.
very, and some of that is based on their experience. Some of it is
Mhm.
based off of just doing what they see other people doing, and they have no sense of self,
Yeah. That's
and
really good.
so yeah.
That's good. It's like when you look at boundaries, they're so important, in relationships, not just in relationships, but on your job or your career or your brand or at home. And without us having boundaries, you can lose your sense of work-life balance. For example, maybe you have a supervisor that asks you to stay longer, or you have family members that interrupt you doing like a meeting or something. But either way, um, it can disrupt your inner peace. And I think we
Hmm.
really saw that during the pandemic because everyone was at home. So there was no line of demarcation between work and family time because everything blurred together because we were
Mm-hmm.
at home 24/7. So when you're looking at personal boundaries or even physical boundaries, they tell you where you can and can't go. You know,
Yep.
like for example, on the road, you have signs that tell you, don't drive here or warning and caution signs. But when we break a boundary down, a boundary is like a clear line. It tells us where you can go, how far, where to stop. It can also define like where one thing begins and another ends. But like in any relationship, a boundary defines things like our personhood, our identity, our responsibilities, our control in the begin and end, whether if it's with a relative, a friend, whomever. So, however, seeing this and understanding and establishing boundaries is not always easy. Because we have those nail biting moments. We're like,
Uh-huh.
and then I see your mind going, yeah, yeah,
Listen. It's also about awareness,
yeah,
right? So I love that analogy you shared about, there's signs and things on the road that have clear lines of where something ends and begins,
yeah.
where the lane emerges, where it doesn't. And really that's to keep you safe, but it's also for you to be aware of what's coming.
Hmm.
And if you don't take the time to really look at it from that perspective, because so a lot of times you have to take your ego out of it, you got to take your pride out of
Hmm.
it, especially when it comes to you respecting someone else's boundaries.
Yes.
And that's one lesson that I learned here recently, that it takes work and energy to really not make it about you and what you feel,
Mm.
but really understanding where that person is coming from when they're saying, hey, this is my boundary.
Hmm.
It really tests the energy and how much you say you care about somebody, right? Because if you
Hmm.
really care for somebody, then you do the work to really understand, and then you take accountability when you do cross that boundary. Oh, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to do that. I'll do a better
Yeah.
job of doing XYZ. And
Yeah.
so it takes just as much energy to set and adhere to your own boundaries as it does for you to be aware and then be conscious and cognizant of someone else's boundary and showing up in that same way that you want somebody to show up for you with yours.
Yeah. Yeah. I think also we always hear the saying, the best apology is change behavior.
Hmm.
Because when you can point something out, okay, we'll let that one go. But then you do it again. Oh, girl, I forgot. Okay.
Okay,
But
okay.
then, but then you do it again. Now it's like, um, now strike three. How are we handling this now?
Yeah,
What
yeah,
what's going on now? Because now you're a repeat offender.
that part. And it's really, and that's, it shows you that we are, as humans, we're at different stages in our life, in our wisdom and our maturity and things of that nature. And it really, that's why it's so important when you are identifying people who you allow in your life, when you are looking at the people that you want to be in your circle,
Yes.
that you give it time,
Yes.
that you really court people, whether it's dating, whether it's friendships, right? You
Hmm.
have to take the time to get to know people, because people will show you who they are over time. You don't have to do
Hmm.
anything, just show up and be you. They'll show up and be themselves. And whether it's a representative or them, it's going to show up at some point.
Yeah.
And during that process, you start to lay the seeds of foundation. And I always say start from the get-go. Like, we cool and we hang out, but I'm also gonna let you know what my boundaries are, so we can have fun, but we can have real conversation too,
Hmm.
because I don't want you to get so comfortable that you feel like you don't have to respect my boundaries. So I'm going to weed it in the middle, in the beginning,
Yeah.
in the middle, and the end, all throughout, so that there's never any mistake on, yes, we are friends, but yes, there has to be a level of respect too.
Yeah. That's good. Um, what's it saying? And I hate using the word train, but you do have to guide people how to treat you, because if you don't, they'll come in and just wreck everything.
Yep.
And so I kind of want to hear your thought on this. So because
Hmm.
I'm looking at, there's, like you said, different types of boundaries. So there's healthy boundaries in relationships where there's like you create this mutual respect between individuals, like with you and and you're
Hmm.
setting boundaries which help us in respect to relationships. For example, I shot you a text message earlier this week to review the graphic. And even though for some people it was early, what do I always say? Hey, I'm sorry for texting you so late. Can you, because
Hmm.
we all have a time. And I know for myself, 8:30, I start winding down. And so someone like you, and I have some people that are night owls, whatever, but for you, I'm just using for example, I'll say, hey Derek, I'm sorry for text. Is it too late? I always ask that because
Hmm.
you have a schedule.
And I appreciate that. And and we've been, friends for a minute now, right? And you still take the time to do that, even even though we do have a
Rapport.
certain level
Yeah.
of rapport
Hmm.
that some people don't have with me, that you have with me, but it's still the mutual respect, because then I'm like, oh wow, like she doesn't just look at me from a friend, but she looks at all aspects of Derek, and she's thinking about that. And in return, that reminds me to do the same. Like I reciprocate and do my best to hold that, because that is a standard that you're setting also for our friendship, and you want to respect the standards and the things that you're setting as a friendship. And so even for me, when I talked about earlier about being aware, for me, it was like, okay, now I am even aware of that even more so. So when I approach you, I bring that same level of respect, because
Yeah.
clearly that is a boundary, and that's something that's of value to you, because you took the time out to make sure that you shared that with me through that
Yeah.
way. So that means, okay, Derek, that is something that is valuable, and that is something that's a part of Camille as a core. So bring that same level of respect to her.
Yeah. And like I said, I have some friends that stay up late, like my god sister Kia. We talk all the time. And sometimes she may be like, hey, I'm busy, I can't talk to you right now. I'll hit you back. I'm like, girl, cool. Because I know she has a lot on her plate.
Hmm.
And I know we'll catch each other, or hey, I'm getting sleepy. Think your people,
Yeah.
and so as you begin to mature and grow, that word respect, we can also substitute that word for honor, honoring the person's
Hmm.
time, honoring
Absolutely.
their presence in your life, honoring their time. To me, those words are parallel, they're synonymous.
Hmm.
Respect, honor.
Absolutely. And it's one of those things where I feel it's a lost practice in certain areas,
Hmm.
because let's just be real. Let's call a thing a thing, right? Social media has given people instant access to people at any time, even celebrities. And so like the
Yeah.
veil of access has now been lifted. So now people,
Exclusivity. Yeah.
yeah, before, it was like, because you don't know, you don't see somebody, it's a level of respect. Like I have to go through a certain channel to even get access to you, because
Hmm.
there's so much space between that. So I have to act accordingly. But now with social media, people just be like jumping in DMs, and they say whatever they want in the comments, because they don't have to work for access.
Mm.
And that's
Made
the
it
whole
common.
thing.
You made them common.
You made them common. So, and
Mhm.
that's the important, that's why friendships that are of any value, they had to work for the access to get that. Trust is built over time.
Yeah.
Relationships is built over time. And so if you stick in it and you show up, but you show up with that respect, and you show up really authentically as who you are, and with intention. Like my intention is to really be a friend, and really create a space and create a tribe that we can support. So when your intentions and all that stuff is aligned, you'll get to that point.
Hmm.
But if you don't have to put no work in, then there is no reward of getting the friendship or getting the access, right?
Yeah.
Now it's an open season, and people don't feel like they have to do the work. People get lazy.
That's really good. So this next point on boundaries, it's like I could just stay here and talk about this. So, and I definitely want to hear your thought on this, Derek. So, with boundaries, to me, I've learned it's a form of self care. Um, it's like a way of taking care of your mental health and ensuring your well being is respected. And for example, like knowing your partner, for example, boundaries, it will help them to know a part of you as a whole person,
Hmm.
because respecting your limits can help them feel more safe about opening up to you, because if they feel like, well, everything's wide open, if I tell you something, that might go out there too. But if they know, like, I know Derek, he doesn't play about his time and whatever, and he's very particular. So if I come to you and, we've talked offline, I
Hmm.
know I can talk to Derek and it's going to stay there because
Absolutely.
you've set a pattern.
Absolutely. And it goes like, and it goes to that's one of the things my mom used to always say. My grandma and my mom, um, don't say, if you can't say it. Wait, don't say it if you can't say it twice.
That's good.
And if I say it, and if I said it, I'll say it the second time, and I'll say it louder, and I'll repeat what I said. So it's one of those things where I believe in respecting people's privacy, and because that's what I would want. Like if I'm confiding in somebody and I'm saying, "Hey, I want to share this with you," and I want to feel that I can trust you in doing that, then I'm going to give you the opportunity to gain that trust. But
Right.
then if it leaks out and I know I only told you, then I'm like, okay, I know where to put this person.
Boundary.
Boundary. Boom. I gave you the opportunity, you fumbled the ball. And so now I got to build a wall, right?
Flag on
That's
the play.
cool. Flag on the play, flag on the play. But in the same token, though, I think it's important to understand where that is for you, because some people can't hold water. So if you can't hold water, then you don't need to keep nobody's secrets. You don't need to even offer that up as an option because you don't have the capacity to hold that level of weight, right? Because holding somebody else's secret is weight, it's heavy.
That's
So if
good.
you don't have the ability to know how to navigate that, or you haven't done the working out to be able to hold that without getting shaky and wanting to tell somebody else to help you hold it, then you don't need to be sharing nobody's secret.
Love it. I absolutely love it. I do want to circle back to the whole boundary thing because I think that's so important. But I do want to shift the conversation a little bit, which will probably circle back to boundaries. But I do also want to talk about the impact of your offline presence, like how we show up every day and being consistent. Because we had the luxury of meeting online finally.
I know, right?
And it was great. The food was it was so good, and the company was good. But we see people presenting online, and then when you meet them in person, it's like, ugh.
Yeah,
um,
absolutely.
so let's kind of chat about that, and let's start with your view on the impact of an offline presence.
It's an offline presence is so much more powerful
Yeah.
because you feel the energy and it's intimate, right? Being in someone's space, right? Physical space, and actually looking someone in their eyes and hearing them and smelling their fragrance, what it's a very intimate experience. And so for me, I prefer offline, right? I prefer to meet you in person. I prefer to give you a hug. I prefer to laugh and tap you on your shoulder because it's good to us, and all that good stuff, because that is where bonds are built.
Yeah.
And I think what's happening is people are playing a role online, and it doesn't it doesn't convey the same way offline. And so we grew up in a space where you had to, there was no online when we grew up.
Right. Yeah.
It was just, hey, if you saw all the bikes outside of someone's house, that's where everybody was, right? And so we grew up in where we had to be personable. Like they were teaching classes about networking, going into a room, so we had to physically meet people, have conversations, and things of that nature. And so I think I value that skill set, and I think it's so powerful because business in anything, the way you get to it is through people. It's through connections. It's through building relationships. That's all that it is. People trust you when they get to know you and get to meet you, because you can be whatever you want to be online.
Yeah.
But when the rubber hits the road, are you who you supposed to be, right?
Yes.
So I love offline. I love offline.
And my thing is too, Derek, I'm like, when you build rapport offline, it strengthens the online relationship.
Yes.
Because now if you post something, I'm like, yep, that's right. That's how it is, because that's how he is in real life. Because you have a lot of social media philosophers now. And they're doing all this deep posting, like, oh, but when you meet them in person, they have nothing to give you. No words of inspiration, nothing to say.
They're shallow as a kiddie pool.
And it's just like, I don't want to be that. I want whoever I am online in real life, it's me.
Yeah.
And I think you can vouch, like, yeah, she's really like that.
Absolutely. That's the first thing we said. Like we was like, we talked, we was like, oh my God. It was like you was like, I am so happy you are who you were online, in person, and vice versa, because you build up this anticipation, right? You build
Yeah.
up this rapport, you build up this relationship, you build up this camaraderie,
Yeah.
and you want it to convert to offline because you really want that experience to be rich, and you know it's going to be heightened when you're in person.
Mhm.
And there have been people that I've met that have just dropped the ball, and I'm like,
Mm.
and yeah, you get disappointed and you get let down because you're like, ah. And but again, that has nothing to do with us. That has everything to do with them. But it can be disappointing because you spent so much time building a relationship or building rapport, and then they're not who they are. Either they're rude or they lack substance or whatever the case may be. And people are performers online,
Yeah.
right? Because it's
Yeah.
safe. It's
Yeah.
easy to, and again, it's not to, down anybody that, aren't who they are online, because some people may have learning disabilities or some type of
Mhm.
shortcomings that just anxiety and people and so online is a preferred method. But I
Mhm.
always say put that in your story and share that, because you may be able to build a community of other people who may not like to connect offline and prefer online. Your
Yeah.
story can impact other people, but people would rather hide behind that and try to be something different when they're who they are in their journey or their challenge, whatever that may be, can create so
Mhm.
much more impact if they're just authentic with it.
That's like when you have that offline relationship, it can increase the connectivity down the road because like you said before, growing up, if you saw the bikes out in the yard, that was a hangout spot. Because now, I've been in spaces where it's supposed to be social, but everyone is down on their phone in the
Fully.
corner on the phone. But then on social media, oh, the event was lit. Da, 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 da. It looks popping, but when you're actually there, it's dry.
And the only thing that you see are selfies. There were no conversations behind those pictures.
None. None. I think it's killed it. I just feel like, the influence of phones and selfies and social media, okay, it's great to highlight it, but what about immersing yourself in the experience? What about immersing yourself in conversation? I went to something back in December and I was wanting to, talk to people I knew and mingle around. And some people felt a little bit annoyed because they was like, "Don't you see me on my phone?" And I'm like, "But we're at this event, we're in this place. Like, should we not be talking to each other? Should we not be interacting?" Or the people that weren't on their phone, it was just like, "Yeah, it is nice." It's like they could not hold the conversation, and I was just like, "Wow, we're
Hmm.
really here. We are really here."
And it is disappointing, and it's upsetting that that is the case, where you would rather post for the likes, right? You would rather post for um, to say that you are doing something, right? That
Mhm.
you are here, that, oh, I'm at this event, but you didn't do nothing at that event. You didn't make no connections. You didn't make no business connections. You just went there to add content to your social media to make people think that you're something that you aren't.
Yeah. Yeah. What I did do, there were a couple people I knew at the event, but there was someone I didn't know. But
Hmm.
because the person was like, "Oh, she has a bubbly personality," they started talking to me. And because they were like, "Oh, you know her?" Oh, yeah. So the three of us had our little thing going on.
Hmm.
And we were over, and you know me, Derek. I like to crack up. So we're over there. I love joking.
Hmm.
So we were over there kikiing, having a great time. And then some people were kind of like, "Well, what's going on over there?"
Hmm.
But I was like, "Well, see, if you had to talk to me, you could have had fun too."
Like attracts like. So you
Yeah.
you attracted exactly who you needed to attract, that matched the energy, and
Yeah.
that is not afraid to show up. And that's so important, and that's why, and then people, I mean, get ready, because in-person events are coming back, and they're coming back fast. They're coming back. I mean, virtual will still be an option because there's still people. I mean, just because the space that people now create to reach more people virtually, there will always be a hybrid, I think, from this day moving forward. But
Yeah.
in-person events are coming back, and so it's time to strike while the iron is hot. And I always say,
Yeah.
I love your approach, where even if you go to an event, just give yourself a goal. Hey, I'm going to meet one or two new people. You ain't got to meet everybody there. Meet one or two new people with the intention of creating a new connection, not for the purposes of getting something, but just for the purpose of creating a connection.
Yeah. Um Lucrece said,
I'm hilarious. Am I?
You are, yeah. In a great way. In a great way. Your energy is infectious.
Thank you so much. So wrapping this up, it just seemed like these conversations go so fast, Derek.
I know.
One thing I will say about the offline presence versus the online presence is
Mhm.
one, know why you're there. Like you said, if you're gonna go to an event, have a goal. No, say, hey, I want to meet at least one person or two people. Um, don't just go, oh, I was here and I was in the corner.
Mhm.
Get something from it, but give something too. If you see the energy is dry, then hey, let's you add to it. Don't be, as I say, don't be a thermometer, meaning just report the situation. Be a
Mhm.
thermostat and change the environment.
Love it.
You be the one to turn that atmosphere around and say, you know what, it was boring, but honey, when Derek walked in the room, it was everything. Like, you be the one to change the atmosphere. I think that's very important. But just being not only just intentional and changing the atmosphere and taking from it, but adding to it, but then saying, hey, what did I learn from this situation?
Absolutely. You're spot on. I think it's important to, even before you go to the event, research who the speakers are, research some of the topics and some of the categories that may be in some of the breakout rooms, or if they have a social, like have an understanding of even what the schedule is so that you can prepare yourself mentally for the energy that you're going to have to give, right? Because some people may just retreat in because it's a lot of energy, and so
Hmm.
conserve your energy and just be very strategic about where you do go, so that way you can still respect your boundaries, respect your peace, respect
Yeah.
whatever works for you, but then also be able to show up with intention so that you can create connections, because we don't spend all this money to go to events just to go and say we went. We go there with the goal of hopefully to network, to meet some other people, to get a nugget of wisdom or two, and then to life leave the place better than how we came, so that we can shift and change the world. Like, we're all here living our purpose, and 9 times out of 10, when we're going to networking events and things of that nature, we are going to build ourselves up, to create new energy and new space. And so do that,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, I agree. And I'm naturally an introvert. So I always get anxiety when I go to
Hmm.
anything. And so what I do, I kind of psych myself up and say, okay, you're gonna talk to somebody. And inside I'm cringing, like, oh, I don't want to do this, But every time I've gone, I end up meeting somebody. There's always that one person I connect with, and I'm like, man, I'm glad I came to this.
Hmm.
But I also go in the mindset, I hate when people go to a space and they just want to, as I call, debo the whole thing. It's
Hmm.
just all of a sudden they want to make sure they're the middle center of attention. They're doing all the talking. They know everything about everything. They're the subject matter expert on whatever, basket weaving. Oh, they know it all. And I don't ever want to be in a space where I know everything. If anything, I like to be in a space where I don't know and I can just absorb it,
Hmm.
because I feel like it's such a turnoff. Like, what are you really getting from this? If you know everything, why are you here?
And you know what that gives me a hint of? That gives me a hint of, and the Holy Spirit told me to go ahead and say it, so I'm gonna say it, a hint of insecurity.
Break that
Because
down, please.
because when you are confident in yourself, you don't have to be the center of attention in everything. When you're confident in
Mm,
yourself, you don't have to be the loudest. You don't always have to answer every question. You don't have to be right, because you know your value. And when you are called to speak, you will speak with value, and you will say less, but it will be so much more impactful. Right. And so when you see people that have to hop around and be all this, it's because they're trying to fill a hole or fill a void or fill something that they feel is missing, and they're trying to get the validation from everybody. Oh yeah, you're good, you're this, to really confirm themselves for them. And I've seen it time and time again. And you're like, what are you doing? But then you understand that you when you get to know. I had a friend. We're friends now, but we weren't friends then. But they
mhm,
were that person in the room. And later on, when we ended up, I forget, we had a conversation. We ended up being friends. And we talked about that. And it was like, there was a time in their life that they were really trying to find validation because they didn't feel it for themselves. They didn't feel like they
mhm.
were enough and things of that nature. And so they went to places and they would, show up and show out. And for that moment, everybody's like, oh, they're awesome. They're this, they're that. And that is true. But then also, what it can also be true is that there is insecurity around that. And that was a performance that the insecurity was giving, not
Mhm.
them. And so it's one of those things where it's like there's always a root cause. There's always something that drives the outward expression, right? You know? And so it's like be confident in who you are. I had a meeting earlier today and I knew pretty much everything that we were talking about, but I chose to only speak when I needed to. And I only chose to speak on certain things. I didn't need to go in there and shout my resume and say and make myself show them that I knew all this other stuff. No, and this is the work that I've been doing. So I can say that because I've also felt that way, that I needed validation.
Yeah.
In certain spaces. But now I'm like, I'm confident in what I do. I've given my value. I don't have anything to prove. I'm here to add value. So I'm gonna add value when the time comes, and then I'm gonna listen and be present. And that makes it more powerful. Because at the end of the call, they were like, well, you know what, Derek and such, you're gonna be the point people because you all know what's going on. You know, and you're going to be an access point that we need to get what we need. And I only spoke maybe a few times.
That's good. I like it. You know what? Every time you come here, you drop major gems. And it's like you make me want to be better every time I talk to you. Cause I'm like, that's good. That's really good.
No, I appreciate you.
Adding, just always Salt Bae, you just always adding.
Add your own flavor, right?
So as we begin to wrap up, you know, I like to go on my segment as we begin to close out as far as takeaways or jewels and nuggets, and also where people can contact you on social media. So in that space, as far as just wrapping up this conversation, what are some nuggets or takeaways that you can give to the listeners and viewers? I need you to recap that letter B for sure. I need that.
Right. Well, the B part, right? A lot of things in life, you're going to have to find a way to be okay, because everything is not going to go your way. Everything is not going to be happy-go-lucky. Everything is not going to just work out instantaneously, right? And so you have to find that space where you're content, right? Being okay with people not respecting your boundaries, because that means that, okay, well, you don't need to be in my life, because that's a decision that you'll have to make. Be okay with people walking away, with people not understanding, with people getting an attitude and exiting out. Like, you don't chase them down. Be okay with that, because that creates space and room for the right people, for the right opportunities to come in, because some blessings are only tied to you. But if you have people that are not supposed to be recipients of that blessing can get held up in customs until you clear those people out. And I've seen it time and time again. There's been times where I've had to let people go. And as soon as I let people go, things started happening because they weren't supposed to be recipients of that blessing. So that's why I said be okay, because there's greater on the other end of letting people go. And so it'll be okay at the end of the day. It'll be okay. That's that whole B too. It will be okay at the end of the day.
I love it.
It's temporary, but there's beauty in uncertainty. Tomorrow is uncertain. When we get off this call, that's uncertain. We don't know what's going to happen in the next 10 minutes.
Don't.
But there's beauty behind uncertainty, because what are the possibilities that could exist, right? So.
Boy. What is your cash app? You need an offering. The doors of the church are open.
Are now open.
Is there one? How the ushers be standing at the door.
Okay.
Okay, so where can people connect with you on social media? And you know I'm going to bring you back. So for those that would like to get a little bit more of your wisdom, first of all, if you're not following Derek D. Ross on Instagram, shame on you, because he drops gems every day. After my prayer and devotion time in the morning, and I open that Instagram, boom, I'm like, this. I have to put it in my timeline because it's so good. So where can people connect with you on social media?
So they Derek D. Ross, and I put it in there. There's no dots, but I put it in the chat, so it's just Derek D. Ross all together.
Okay.
But yeah, you can follow, and that's across all social media: Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, TikTok. Keep it simple, branding. Keep it simple, but everybody can find me across the board. Thank you for that. Everybody can find me across the board, but yeah, that's where I'll be, and I'm in a space now where I'm in my offline brand. So if you see me online, that's because I'm popping in to drop something, or I'm sharing, or I'm supporting. But I'm in my offline bag right now. So I'm training to be a coach in several programs, being a media coach in the PR media space for like high-powered executives, and even underrepresented voices that want to be heard and amplified. So I'm supporting my homegirl Sharia in her Sean Army in her book camp. I was hosting that. So I'm doing a lot of different things just to really pour into me, but then also do the things that I can give back to others in the most highest efficient way. So I'm in my consulting bag, I'm in my business, but then I'm also wanting to support other people in their programs with coaching and just sharing my expertise in that way. So
I love it. I love it. Thank you so much for joining me. Those that have been watching, if you got something from this, please let us know. Reach out to Derek on Instagram and or Facebook. I will be putting snippets of this up later. If you're following me, great. If you're not, shame on you. But this replay will be available on my YouTube channel. So be sure to go there and subscribe. Also follow me on Instagram at Camille.Essick right there. And then you can follow me here with my merch line, Good Black Men, which is also on Instagram. gbmofficial.com and Good Black Men Official on Instagram. As far as with Chemistry Room Fragrances, if you've been following me, behind the scenes, I've been working on a new fragrance for spring and summer 2023. This one is so good. That's all I can say. It is so good. And I'm a perfectionist when it comes to my fragrances. And I was messing with the composition. I was like, it's like cooking. Like it needs a little. And once I figured out what I needed to really make this fragrance pop, I was in here testing and spraying. I was like, oh, this is so good. So I cannot wait to release this fragrance. It's coming out soon. So if you go to my website at chemistryroomfragrances.com, you'll be able to get the number first. And who knows, I may have a pre-launch sale or even a surprise flash sale to announce that the scent is out. So that's going to be coming out really, really soon. Just waiting on a couple other things to line up because I wanted to drop it just right. Thank you, Lil Crest. Truly appreciate it. Hey, what's up, Whitney? Thank you to those that have been hopping in. Kia, Mandy, Lucrece. What's up, Paula? How you doing? Whitney said, happy birthday, Derek.
thank you.
So thank you so much. Hey, Paula, I hope everything is going well with you. Kia was in here earlier, and there were some other people as well. They may have hopped in and out. Mandy, what's up, girl? Thank you for tuning in. So yeah, Chemistry Room Fragrances, we're dropping a new scent for summer and spring 2023. It's coming out in the next couple of weeks, so stay tuned for that. Follow us on Instagram. And with that being said, I hope you got something from this. Just a conversation about the boundaries. It just really blessed me personally. I don't know about the viewers and listeners, but it definitely blessed me, Derek. So I just wanted to say thank you so much. We're going to have an amazing conversation next week. So y'all, March is going to be really good. Yeah. It's going to be really good. I've got some new people coming through, some familiar people, a couple people. You're going to be like, what? I'm telling you, March and April. It's going to be nice around here. Okay.
Boom. You heard it first.
You heard it here first. Don't say I didn't warn you. I tried to tell you. Stephanie, my cousin Stephanie, thank you so much for hopping in. I truly appreciate you. So that being said, you all be blessed and good night.